again folks, it's Mel, and today's video I'm going to be having another look at this Glarry Stratocaster. I have done some work on this now. I've done a setup on it and I've done some other bits and bobs, so I'll talk you through the work that I've done on it and my final thoughts on it. But first of all, let's just have a recap. Let's have a listen to some sounds. There we go, that's what the guitar sounds like. Actually sounds pretty darn good. Really like the pickups, although they're very low output. When I measured them, they're just over 3k, about 3.1, 3.2k, so very low output pickups. Having said that, they sound fantastic, and the thing I really like about them is that when you roll the tone controls all the way down, it doesn't get too muddy. It's quite subtle between having the tone fully up and the tone fully down, but there is a difference. Now the tremolo, if you remember when I did the unboxing video and first look, I could barely move it. I really had to put some arm pressure behind it, and I said I thought it probably had 5 springs on it in the back. It actually didn't have 5, it only had 3, but what they'd done is they'd screwed the claw all the way up to the body, and that's why it was so tight. So I've set that up now as a floating bridge, works in both directions, and it's actually pretty stable if you don't go really mad. If you're just doing a slight warble with the trem bar, it's fine. Obviously, if you start doing dive bombs on it, it's going to go out of tune. But it's just a very cheap bridge and tremolo unit with the skinny little block in the back. So if you wanted to take this out and do a gig with it, I would say you'd have to change that bridge. But that's probably going to cost you £40, £50 if you've got to get somebody to fit it for you. Same with the tuners, they do the job, they're okay, they're not brilliant, but they're okay. So again, if I was going to take this out and use it on a gig, I'd put some locking tuners on, or certainly some better tuners. But for a beginner, just for learning on, it's fine. For a practice rehearsal guitar, band rehearsal or anything like that, again it's fine. Even as a backup guitar, should your main guitar break a string or something mid-set, this would probably get you by. The worst thing on this was that neck. If you remember, I said that the neck here at the nut end was like a baseball bat. Now I have reshaped that neck, I've chiselled the big bump out, and it's much more uniform all the way down the neck now. It actually feels really nice, and it plays really nice, and because I've fine sanded it down to about 1500 grit, it's a really fast neck. It could do with a lacquering now, to be honest, but I'm probably just going to sell this guitar on, so I won't be bothering lacquering it. But it has had a full setup. You know what, for under £70 it plays great, it sounds great, it plays great. Now there are a couple of very slightly high frets that I noticed, but again, not really worth my while leveling and recrowning and polishing the frets on this. They weren't that bad, to be honest. Now this has got a very flat fingerboard radius on this guitar. Normally on a Fender or a Squier you'd expect a 9.5-inch radius. This feels more like a Gibson neck, and it's actually flatter than a Gibson. So a Gibson's usually about 12-inch radius. This one's 14-inch, but it makes bending notes really easy on the guitar, and there's no real choking off anywhere up the neck. So yeah, I'm very, very impressed actually with this guitar, because I was expecting a lump of firewood, especially seeing as I bought these two guitars, this and the Telecaster from wish.com, which has hardly got a glowing reputation. and I bought them from two different sellers. But I've got to say, this Strat, now that I've done the work on it, it's fantastic. It feels great. I think it looks great. I really like that orange colour. Uh, Nothing wrong with the pots and controls, the switch. They all work fine, even though I know there'll be the mini ones and the cheap import switch, but it does the job. It's not overly noisy. Like I said, the tremolo is probably a weak point on it, and the tuners, but the nuts cut really well, and the frets are pretty darn good for a guitar coming in at under £70 delivered, that is. I think the actual guitar was £63. But anyway, that's my thoughts on this Glarry Strat. All I can say is, when I first got my very first electric guitar, my mum bought it me for Christmas, and a small amplifier. I seem to recall that cost about £55–60 back in 1972 or 73 it might have been. That was a huge amount of money. I mean, that was like over a week's wages for my mum, and that was a Zenta Telecaster copy made in Japan. It was actually pretty good for the time, but it was certainly no better than this, and maybe was even a little bit worse. It's so far back I can't actually remember that much about it. But this is a great guitar, you know, for a beginner. The only problem would be that neck. If they have small hands like I do, they would need to get that sorted out. But again, it didn't take me long to do that. I got a chisel and a file and a spoke shave, and I reshaped that neck. And I took my time because I'd never done anything like that before. And it probably, I would say it took me about an hour. So it wasn't a massive job. But obviously, if you're a beginner, you're not going to be able to do that unless your dad's a carpenter or something and he can sort it for you. But all in all, pretty impressive guitar for the money. So anyway, if you're in the market for a really budget Strat or Telecaster, you could do worse than have a look at these Glarry guitars. As I said, I bought both of these from wish.com from two separate sellers. I've done the work on the Telecaster as well, so I'll show you that one next week. But that's the video for today. Please remember, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, a comment, a share. If you do subscribe, ring the bell notification and click all. That's all from me, and I'll see you next week with the Telecaster, and bye for now.